Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Friendly reminder, you do have a vocab quiz on Monday 1 through 10, Tuesday 11 through 20, Wednesday 21 through Thursday, 21 through 30, not Thursday, that's weird. You have a test. Today we are working on a brand new assignment, right, Nick? So, in order to get your 10 points, all you have to do is do it with me and submit it on Canvas, which is already open and you can get rid of it today. Now, this is what we're making. Short end. It is a little complicated, which is why we're doing the flow chart, and then we got stuff on the back. So, when I tell you to put it someplace, I'm telling you to put it exactly where it should be, yes? Here we go. So, let's start with Russian at the bottom, Russian men and women above 18 years old. Okay, we're going to put a nice little box around it. Okay, that is our electorate. Anyone in Russia who is over 18 is voting. They are going to vote for only 3 things. Here, let's make a key. We'll make a key right now. You need 3 boxes. You have elected, appointed, and checks. Okay, so the first position in government that we are going to discuss is president. And who is our current president? Vladimir Putin. Okay, so we're going to put him over here in a nice little box. Putin is elected by the people. Okay, he is elected by the people. You need to know the election is every 6 years. Only 2 terms allowed. Parenthesis, exceptions. And who is the exceptions? Putin. Oh my God, I'm so surprised. You need to put a star. Campaign, candidates need the support of the Duma faction, or a majority of the people in the Duma, which we'll get to in a sec, or 100,000 signatures. Okay, put a star. Other restrictions. Are you okay back there? Apply. Sophia, you're going to make it? Was that you with the big sigh? Yes? Nice. Here we go. So, the president is elected every 6 years and only allowed 2 terms. Of course, there are exceptions because Putin's on his 3rd term. Okay? The Russian men and women. So, we talked about the Duma. Here we go. Sophia, you can move closer. Would that be easier? Is that the problem? Hello? Okay. So, here we have the Federal Assembly. We have the Federal Assembly. Now think about, here in the United States, we refer to this as Congress. Congress has 2 houses. It's what? Bicameral. So there's a high house and a... So here in the Federal Assembly, which is the big broad name, you have 2 houses. One of them is called the State Duma. The other one is called the Federation Council. Okay. Also referred to as Parliament. So sometimes you will see it referred to as Parliament. Now, a couple things that you need to know. That the State Duma is the most powerful. Okay, so this is the high house. Which one's the low house? There you go. So, it is important for you to know that the people of Russia vote for the State Duma. They're the ones who vote for that. An election is every 5 years. Which honestly doesn't make any sense to me, because why don't they just make it every 6 years so they're using the same ballot for all these people? But no one seems to care what I think. Here we go. So, there are 3 things the people of Russia vote for. First one is president, the second one is State Duma, and the third one is what we call regional parliaments. Regional parliaments. Okay. Now, Russia is the biggest country in the world. It's huge. Because of that, it is super diverse because it's super huge. If you think all Russians are white people with blonde hair, you're wrong, because most of Russia is in Asia, and that is a huge component. So because of it, by the way, you need only 3 colors will be used today. So we're going to make sure everyone knows that our elected positions, for me it's going to be green. Your president is elected by the people of Russia. It is a direct ballot. The State Duma is elected directly by the people, and I'm just going to color in Russian men and women so everyone knows it's these electorate that are doing it, and they are voting for regional parliaments. So in the Russian government, there are 3 components that you have to understand that are elected by the people of Russia. It is the president, the State Duma, and the regional parliament. So because Russia is so big, they divide it into 85 federations. Those 85 federations are what we would equate to here in the United States as states. Ish. Huh? Yeah, it's huge. That's how big it is. Okay? So, now, the regional parliaments create what we call regional governments. These regional governments are in charge of how things work in each one that kind of follows the local customs. So for being as big, it's trying to take into some awareness of what needs to be done. Now, if the people are electing the State Duma, who is electing the Federation Council? Well, funny thing is, some of it is coming from your regional governments. Some of it is coming from the regional parliaments. Okay, so what you need to know, there are 2 representatives of each of the 85 federations. 1 from regional, 1 from regional government, 1 from regional parliament. So, in Russia, the people vote for the president and the State Duma and something called regional governments, which kind of create the local governments, which is what we call regional governments. From the regional governments of each of the 85, the actual government itself votes in one of them. Then the regional parliaments, which is looking at the whole body as a whole, picks one per each one. Okay, and that's how we get here. Now, once we get into the Federal Assembly, this is a parliament. So if you have a parliament, what do parliaments elect? Prime ministers. There you go. So the Federal Assembly elects a what? Prime minister. Okay. So, the Federal Assembly, which is made up of the State Duma, which is the high house, and the Federation Council, which is the low house, elects a prime minister. Now, on the same level as the prime minister, you have something called ministers. Okay. Now, these ministers have something called a council of ministers. So what does Russia have a lot of? Yes, they do. Okay? So, let's stop and process. Get another color. I'm going to use orange. Okay, these are appointed positions. So, in Russia, there are only 3 votes the people do. 1 for the president, 1 for the State Duma, and 1 for the regional parliament. From regional parliament, they appoint regional governments. Okay, the local government of one of the 85 locations is going to be created by the regional parliament. Now, inside the legislative branch, you have the State Duma, which is the high house, and the low house is called the Federation Council. Is created 2 people per state. 1 comes from the regional government, 1 comes from the regional parliament, and that gets put in your Federation Council. So that is also appointed. Now, from the entirety of the Federal Assembly, the State Duma and the Federation Council, that is how you get a prime minister. They are appointed by the Federal Assembly to become prime minister. And what is the name of your prime minister? They are head of government. They are inward facing. Okay? The president is known as head of Okay? So, we have head of government, we have head of state. You also need to know that the ministers are appointed. Okay, and we're going to get into how all of this works here in a second. So, we have 4 appointed positions: regional, Federation Council, ministers, and prime ministers, and then we have 3 elected positions. Oof. Here we go. Now, the prime minister, what they do, they send proposals to Parliament. Okay? So does the president. So is this a unique thing or no? No. There's overlap here. Okay. Now, what's the only color we haven't used yet? Checks. So we got to get some checks on here. Okay. So let's talk. Prime Minister comes out of the Federal Assembly. They come up. So they are the head of the Federal Assembly. Yes? Okay. So who are these ministers? Who do you think appoints them? President appoints them. So who is the president checking with this? Who is the president checking by appointing ministers? The prime minister, guys, because they're on the same equal pathway here. Yes, they're on the same tier. They are equal. So the prime minister is as equal to his ministers. The prime minister is selected by the By the Federal Assembly. The minister is elected by the president. So, appoints ministers and can overturn government decisions. Is that a lot of power or a little power? That's a lot of power. Okay. Parentheses, Parliament has limited say. Okay. So, I'm going to use blue. That's clearly a check. So, that is a check. Okay, here we go. The president. Oh my gosh. The president can disband the Duma. What does disband mean, Jake? Yeah, they can't get rid of it. Can our president and can Biden disband Congress? No, there are three separate branches. They are there to check and balance us. So, the president can disband the Duma. How has it ever happened? Yeah. It's fine. We'll talk about it. They paused it. Okay, so in regard to the state Duma can depose the president. Now, lady, what does depose mean, Annie? What do you think it means? Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing? Yeah, depose means to take down. Okay, how often do you think that's used? Never. Okay, it's not used. Okay, so there are three ways the people of Russia elect president, state Duma, regional parliaments. There are appointees in regional governments, federation, council, prime minister, and ministers. Now, the president have checks of power at all positions. Okay, the president can check the ministers. They're also, Putin is going to handpick all of the regional governments, by the way. We'll get to that later. But that's the foundation of how the government's set. How do we feel? Aren't you glad we did a chart? There you go. Well, that's a you problem, not a me problem. Flip it over. Here we go. So let's talk the massive background that you're supposed to have. Hopefully all of this is just review. We're writing in 2 columns. Here we go. So pre-1917.
That was not me.
Sophia again. Here we go. You need to know the term czar or Tsar. They're the same thing. There's some up there, dude. Why didn't you ask me? But the creepy slide listen as you walk across. Cool. Okay. Czar. So you need to know the title pre 1917 is Tsar or Czar. They're interchangeable. You need to know the family names are the Romanovs. The Romanovs were the ruling family. Okay. Underneath the Romanovs, it's absolute power. What is absolute power, Ford? There you go. So whatever they wanted, they got. Orthodox Christian. And they are one of the wealthiest families in the world, in the history of the world. Okay? Have you ever seen the bejeweled eggs? Fabergé eggs? That's them. That was like their Easter gift to each other. Oh, I don't know if it was a Fabergé egg. I don't remember if it was a Fabergé egg. Okay, so from 1917 to 1924 is the time period we're discussing. Okay? You need to know World War I is raging. Russia is losing badly. Parentheses, not industrialized. So they walk into World War I with a bunch of swords to a gunfight. Okay? So, put a star. People are pissed. So, you need to know they're going to start something called the Russian Revolution. The Russian Revolution is actually 3 parts. The first part happens to be called the Russian Revolution, but there's actually 3 parts that are considered part of the Russian Revolution. Okay, so the Russian Revolution. All of Russia rebels. Okay, Tsar Nicholas II is removed from power. Okay, so that happens in the Russian Revolution. Okay, the Duma takes over. Put a star. Duma takes over. Has the Duma ever taken over before? No, because it's always been an absolute authority of the king. So they've never had this power before. So are they good at it or bad at it? They're so bad at it that a small group of people are going to overtake it. The Bolshevik Revolution is next. Of course, you know all these terms, right? None of this is new? Perfect. It is led by who? Who is it led by, Lucas? Yes, who's it led by? What? Who leads the Bolshevik Revolution? Mr. Clark, the Bolshevik Revolution is led by an individual, not Bolshevik. Brooklyn? Lenin. Vladimir Lenin? Yeah. Led by Lenin. They want communism. Parentheses, small population. Now, why, ladies and gentlemen, were they able to take over all of Russia? Because it was under whose control? The Tsars or the Duma? The Duma. The Duma was weak. The Duma had no idea what they were doing, and they've never had that type of power before. Okay, so the Bolshevik Revolution happens. The Bolsheviks are now in power, and that's going to cause the Russian Civil War. Yeah, this is not a good time to be in Russia. Yeah, 1917 to 1924. I mean, the amount of death of Russian boys is insane. Only to be worsened by, World War II. Okay, the Russian Civil War. You have the Bolsheviks. Parentheses, com, to represent communists versus Mensheviks, who are capitalists. Okay, I want you to know the Bolsheviks are represented by red. The Mensheviks are white. Okay, so who wins? The Bolsheviks win. Bolsheviks wins in 1921. And then I want you to know Lenin dies probably, in 1924. Okay, so you need to know all of this is what we call the Russian Revolution. The Russian Revolution is actually 3 parts. The first part is called the Russian Revolution. The second part is the Bolshevik Revolution. And then the third part is known as the Russian Civil War. It's just like the French Revolution. The French Revolution is actually 3 parts. Okay? All right, here we go. So, you need to know. Put up 2 stars. This creates the USSR or Soviet Union. Okay, and it goes from 1921 to 1991. Okay, underneath that, you need to know that Stalin takes over from Lenin. He leads Russia during industrialization, World War II, and 1/2 of Cold War. Okay. Parentheses till 1953. Okay, so he comes into power in 24 and stays in power to 53. Now, the Cold War. There's a couple things you need to know about the Cold War. We obviously know lots of things about the Cold War, right? Everyone keeps saying we're about to start a second Cold War with the Chinese right now, yeah? You need to know the Cold War is U.S. versus USSR. You need to know it goes from 1945 to 1991. Okay, it is capitalist versus, there you go, communist. Okay. It is a worldwide conflict fought via proxy wars. Okay. I'm just going to put this in a box to make sure everyone knows that's what it is. Okay. So, the end of the USSR is what is on the other side. Okay, you need to know the first leader post-Lenin. So, nope. Okay, so there are only 5 Russian leaders during this time period. The first one ever is Lenin, then, and now we got Khrushchev. Shut up. Khrushchev, Khrushchev. Are we excited for Russian names? Okay, you need to know that he starts the de-Stalinization. Okay, he does de-Stalinization, and he attempts to improve economic relationships. What's up?
Sorry, I need to check. I might have left something in here.
Please look. Okay, so Khrushchev, he does de-Stalinization. He attempts to improve economic relationships with capitalist countries. I have thrown nothing away. Yeah. Your next one. So Khrushchev comes into power. Okay. Your next one is going to be Brezhnev. Brezhnev. Okay. You need to know that under him, he starts losing buffer states to revolution. Okay, parentheses, Prague Spring. We obviously know what that is, yes? It's just the revolutions of your satellite countries. And then you have Gorbachev. By the way, he's still alive. Oh, he just died. He just died. I know. By the way, that was like a huge deal because it used to have people alive. Queen Elizabeth II was the only other person that I taught that was still alive. She dead. So I have no one. There's no one alive in my books anymore. Gorbachev. They are the final. He's the final Soviet leader. Okay. He introduces glasnost and perestroika. Parenthesis, capitalist and democratic ideas. Okay. Okay, one more. We're going to put a big star under Gorbachev because this is the big one that this will tie it back to. Putin blames Gorbachev for losing, in quotes, Soviet power. He wants to regain Soviet glory. Arrow, reconquer, and control economies. That's what he wants. And where have we seen this done? Yeah, economies. Example, Ukraine. Not complete. All right. How do we feel? Did you know a lot of it? You seem like you knew a bunch of it, Brooklyn. Good. I'm glad to hear it. These are things you're supposed to know before you even arrived in my class. Ford, you knew this stuff. You didn't know Khrushchev, Brezhnev, and Gorbachev. Because guess what you're learning about this week and next week, Ford? Oh, yeah. That's the funny thing. Because I had to remind myself because I haven't taught in a year. Here we go. You are going to take a picture of the front and the back and submit it on Canvas for 10 points. Isn't that nice? Was this helpful? I think big picture, it will be helpful. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are going to take a picture of it and post it on Canvas right now.